She's alive. Thank God, right? Now, what do I think about all of this? I think we have to go back to the beginning to understand what happened here. And let's start with Harry and Meghan's trip to Whistler, Canada, and how much of a success that was. And it seems to me that things started to become very bizarre coming out of Kensington Palace right around that time, right around the time of the Whistler trip and Harry and Meghan getting such amazing press, everybody talking about what a success it was, everybody seeing how successful it was. And then suddenly Kensington Palace started to give a lot of weird updates on the Princess of Wales, even though when they had announced that she was ill back in January, they had said that they would not give any updates until it was a significant update, right? But right after Harry and Meghan got back from Whistler, they started to bring all these sort of very mysterious
The
tidbits to the
tension between
public.
Prince William and Prince Harry may have started almost a decade ago. The ABC News special Prince Harry's Mission, Life, Family, and Invictus Games gives a deep dive into the royal's relationship with his family and celebrates the success of his Invictus Games. But British journalist Robert Jobson says in the special that the Prince of Wales may have been jealous of the success of the sports competition.
The Invictus is Harry's number one passion project. It's been very successful since its outset. It doesn't come cheap, it costs a lot of money, and he's been able to continue to raise that money throughout this period, which is impressive. But I think there was a degree of jealousy about how well it had gone. I do think that William was surprised how much this had been such a success and how much money was being thrown into it, and how many governments were getting involved.
Prince Harry.
Right. So we had this guy, Jobson, saying that around that time. And I mean, the press that Harry and Meghan were getting was just glowing. I mean, people couldn't stop talking about it, writing about it, showing, the outfits over and over again. It was just epic, right? So yeah, I mean, but before that, before this trip, we had received from Kensington Palace this notice on January 17th that the Princess of Wales had had this medical procedure that was planned in advance and that she would have to recuperate for some time and there would be new updates if there were significant new information on her situation, right? And so everybody was braced for that. But then again, Whistler, Canada happened, and I feel like the communications team at Kensington Palace, I guess at the behest of Kate and William, changed their strategy and started giving us all kinds of tidbits that were very mysterious, intriguing. They created all this mystique. And then after some time, it just feels like the subterfuge kicked in and the confusion kicked in. And as that started to mount and mount, then the worry and fear kicked in. And then it was kind of like, what's really going on here? Where's Kate? And why are you telling us all these weird things that, for example, she hired Queen Elizabeth's former equerry and she went to visit the king in Sandringham and she was in Norfolk and then she was at Adelaide Cottage and then she was at her mother's house and then she was in isolation and then she was meeting friends and then she was doing this and she was doing that. And then it's just like started to become very mysterious. Like, where's Kate? I mean, we saw her in December looking perfectly fine. And then suddenly we don't see her at all. But then we see her sister Pippa in the Caribbean looking healthy. So if Pippa is, in the Caribbean, obviously the Princess of Wales, her sister must be fine. But we're not getting any updates from Kensington Palace as to is she really fine? Then we see other members of the royal family all over, like Zara and Eugenie in Bahrain with the man Jeremy Clarkson, who called for Meghan to be dragged naked in the streets of London and pelted with feces on a private jet in Bahrain. If they're doing that, where's the Princess of Wales? Why are we not getting any updates? Why are we being told she's all over the place, but there are no photo ops? I think the communications team intentionally wanted us to not be clear about what was going on. Then they started pelting us with all these weird, um, photo sightings of the Princess of Wales. And all their henchmen are coming out. They're telling us this. They're telling us that. But meanwhile, we're seeing the Princess of Wales come out in all kinds of weird outings. There was Kate 1.0, there was Kate 2.0, there was Kate 3.0, and then there was Kate 4.0, all of which looked completely different. Kate 4.0 being the one where she tells us that she has this cancer that was found after a procedure, a
They found
statement that was
cancer was
denounced
present.
by doctors in the United
She said
States.
she needed time to recover from the major surgery in order to start treatment. Can you talk a little bit about, from a medical standpoint, what stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the timeline that you just laid out is really interesting and important. I mean, that was a very touching statement, obviously, but we still don't know what kind of cancer this is. As Max mentioned, we don't know what stage this is. But January 16th is when we were told she was going in for surgery. The next day, we were told that she's probably going to have a somewhat prolonged hospitalization, and it was almost 2 weeks, 13 days later, that she was discharged. So that was end of January. Then it was end of February where we now understand she started this chemotherapy. And obviously we're hearing about this 3 weeks later for all the reasons she mentioned. One thing, they use this term preventive chemotherapy in the statement, which I think is a very non-medical term. I mean, you don't give chemotherapy preventatively. She has cancer. We don't know what kind of cancer it is, and this is typically something that's referred to as adjuvant chemotherapy, meaning something alongside the surgery now that's being given. But, what stands out to me is that, it's very touching, but we don't know the cancer. We don't know the staging. We did not hear anything from the medical team saying, hey, look, we expect a full recovery. She obviously has said that, but it's there's a lot of questions, I think, that still remain and need to be answered, I think, in some way.
And so just talk a little bit about chemotherapy. Again, we don't know what type of cancer is or how.
Right.
But what is, sort of in general, how does chemotherapy work? Does someone have to go to a hospital for that? Is that something that can be
So yeah,
done
it's really
privately at their residence? What sort of
it's really difficult to
effect does it have?
understand.
Yeah, I mean, there's, these are medications that are typically given in the bloodstream. Sometimes they can be given as a pill orally. If it's given in the bloodstream, then people do typically go to the hospital. Of course, we're talking about the royal family, so I think anything probably is possible for the royal family in terms of doing it more privately. But as Max said, it can be several weeks of these therapies, and they're designed, like the basic notion is we did the operation, now we find cancer, there's likely to be some cancer that is remaining in the body, let's give chemotherapy to try and target those remaining cells. That's the basic sort of idea behind chemo. But I almost can't say anything more than that because we don't know what kind of cancer, we don't know what stage, we don't know what the chemotherapy is, and we don't know even what type, meaning would she need to be even in an outpatient setting in the hospital.
It's really difficult for me to understand why the communications team at Kensington Palace chose to remain mum for so long when they could have easily had the Duchess, the Princess of Wales, do this very same press conference, news conference, video, whatever you want to call it, a month ago to quell all of the fears and uncertainty of the global population as they saw that, mounting and, whatever you want to call it, conspiracy theories, whatever, increasing. And they just remained mum and continued to play a game, I believe, with the public. I believe they played a game with the public. And when I take everything into consideration, with all due respect, I mean, I'm glad that the Princess of Wales is alive. Really for me, it just got to a point where it was like, is this girl even alive? But then it just really raises all these other questions. I mean, what was so difficult for the communications team to advise her to do this, even after several experts, many of them who have spoken favorably about the Princess of Wales and her husband, the Prince of Wales, for years while lambasting Meghan, have all been calling for her to be put in a video and explain what's going on to the people. Prior even to the Mother's Day photograph that she admitted to doctoring, right? It wasn't even edit, it was just completely collaged as if it was like a joke. Now you wonder whether it was just all a joke because here she is. This is the fourth iteration of the new Kate, right? Um, Telling us that she's got cancer. She has been undergoing preventative chemotherapy, which apparently is not even a medical term. It's not done. You don't give preventative chemotherapy according to some doctors on CNN. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I really don't know. But apparently, it's not something that's even given. You don't do exploratory surgery. So, her telling us that she went in for surgery in January, and then after that, they discovered cancer, which was eerily similar to the same story that Prince Charles had. He went in for one surgery and he came out, and after that, they found this cancer. Apparently, that's kind of like not how this kind of stuff works. Again, I don't know these procedures. I'm not a medical doctor, so I can't say it's true or it's not true. But apparently, there are some abnormalities in what she's saying insofar as actual, cancer and chemotherapy and all of these types of things and diagnoses are concerned. Unfortunately, because of all of the games, frankly, that were played here, one does not know what even to believe, even though the Princess of Wales clearly is very thin, right? She clearly has been through something. But what really is it? Can I say for sure that I absolutely believe her? No, I can't. At the same time, I would say that whatever it is, it's really none of my business anyway. I mean, I was never really interested in um in knowing her medical, diagnoses. I became concerned when it seemed to me that there were all kinds of strange updates from the palace that didn't make sense for someone who is a public figure who has lived her life in the public eye for the last 15 years. She had this medical procedure. Then she was so much better that she was working from home. She was hiring staff. She was meeting friends. She was cooking for the children. Her neighbors were seeing her all the time. She's just doing so many things. She's visiting her father-in-law at his estate in Sandringham, etc., etc. And there were no photo ops. This was strange, and I think this was intentional to build mystique and to build almost, this a conversation around her and William and Kensington Palace and take away attention from Harry and Meghan's success in Western Canada. This is my opinion, right? Now, as a consequence of that, you had people, I think, quite naturally asking questions, even people who were not part of the Sussex Squad, because they would like to blame this all on people in the Sussex Squad. But even normal, regular people who are British, you know, were asking questions. Where is Kate Middleton? What happened to her? Is she even alive? Then you have all the theories. Is it a BBL? Did she have plastic surgery? Did she have a nervous breakdown? Is it anorexia? Was it a suicide attempt? The palace continued to remain mum when they easily could have done what they did in the end. And one of the things that makes this whole thing so incredible is the fact that the very same palace that is asking the public to now believe that Kate has cancer went out of their way several times to tell the public that Kate does not have cancer, right? They ruled that out for the world before the world even thought to ask, well, is it cancer? No one had asked them whether it was cancer. They ruled it out for the world. And now they're trying to tell us that she found out after she had the surgery. And the doctors are telling us this doesn't make any sense, because before you go in for surgery, you're going to have MRIs, you're going to have CAT scans, you're going to have a lot of exams, right, and tests before you even go in for surgery. So by the time you go in for surgery, you know what you're going in for, right? So now she's sitting here and she's telling us the opposite of what normal medical procedures are, and she's asking us to believe this. Again, her health diagnosis is not my business, but don't now try to turn this into something that it's not. It really isn't. I understand she does look pale. She's not wearing makeup. Women of her ethnicity without makeup are pale, right? So the fact that she's a little bit pale doesn't really say anything. She's thin. She has always been thin, right? So, the fact that she's thin also doesn't really say anything. I do find it very curious that she and Prince Charles went into the same hospital on the same day and had pretty much the same diagnoses, if you think about it. I mean, she didn't have prostate cancer, but they both went in for one thing and they both came out, and subsequent to that, cancer was found. It's very, very curious, I think, right? And, all of the shenanigans of the communications team, all these weird updates, putting her on Trooping the Color, taking her off Trooping the Color, constantly moving the goalpost of when she would actually come back, making it seem like she's really, really sick and something is really, really going on one minute. And then the next minute, making it sound like, she's cooking for herself and she's hiring people and she's doing this and she's doing that. To me, this was an intentional attempt on the part of the communications team at Kensington Palace to create mystique, intrigue, fear, worry in the public, to create pandemonium, which they did, right? And why? To get that attention and sympathy vote, because in the end, what do? They put Kate in front of the world in a Breton top, curiously, and they tell us, oh, she's been having chemotherapy and she's been working on getting well and, finding the perfect moment to inform her children, right? But the fact of the matter is she was so well that she was at the farm with William, walking at a speed I can't personally walk at. I don't have that kind of energy. She had so much energy, she was doctoring a photograph. And the idea, by the way, that William allowed her to take the blame, yes and no, because it has come to public information from Getty or one of these agencies, that there are additional photos taken by the Princess of Wales, who is a photographer, right? She studied photography in university, right? So there are other photos that have similarly been doctored. So this is her modus operandi. It's not William who did the photo. He may have taken the photo, but she's the photographer in the family. And as sick as she is saying that she is right now, and as pale as she may look and as thin as she may look, she had enough energy not only to go to that farm over the weekend and look like really, she could be in the Olympics, but she was doctoring photos behind the scenes that got Kensington Palace and the royal family compared to North Korea and Iran, right? So I really don't know what to make of all of this, right? Because her behavior and the behavior of the team at Kensington Palace was in juxtaposition to King Charles, who has been very transparent with the public about his diagnoses. We see him opening cards and, informing the public, going around in a limo. So that time in the limo, it was really her with William. They were playing games. Yes, she may have, a cancer or non-cancerous situation. Many women have cancer and non-cancerous situation, and anything that is irregular in one's body is irregular. Nobody wants anything to be irregular in their body. I don't wish that on anybody, not even the Princess of Wales. I wish her the best. I wish her good health. But I think that this press conference or this video was long overdue. I'm glad she did it. I'm glad to know that she's well so that I can shift my focus to other things, obviously. But I am not really buying this. I think this was a stunt by the PR team. I really do. Right? I mean, and then you have the strange behaviors from William. I mean, they were all playing along, it is my opinion, in this, right? William missing from Constantine's funeral at the last minute, for example. What was that, right? That was, I believe, a part of the whole bigger story, right? Whoever is at the communications team and their social media team, together, they created a story to not only rival Harry and Meghan's Whistler's success, but outdo it in such a way that it obliterates it from the headlines and puts all of the headline on Kensington Palace and Kate and William and keep it there because now everybody's going to be with their sob story about the Princess of Wales and her cancer diagnosis, which as Sunja Gupte said, we don't even know what kind of cancer this is, really. So we can't even really intelligently discuss it to say, well, yes, we should all, be wearing our black robes or no. So you had all these strange behaviors from William, whether missing Constantine's funeral, swaying in public. At one point, he even dropped an award. Very bizarre behavior, looking gaunt in public. Very, very bizarre. And in juxtaposition, you have the rest of the royal family. We have Camilla sunning herself in Sardinia or south of France or India, wherever she went, and then Pippa in the Caribbean in the white bikini, and the rest of them in Bahrain having a party while the public clamors for information about the Princess of Wales, while the communication team remains mum about it. Then you have Piers Morgan and all these other royal experts sounding the alarm and telling us, oh my God, Kate had a mental breakdown, and Kate's condition is so horrible, and this, that, and the next, and putting a fire in the internet, just whipping up a frenzy, I think intentionally, completely intentionally, because we hear that the Princess of Wales is working behind the scenes. We saw the Princess of Wales at the market, which is a totally different version to the one that's being presented here. Will the real Kate, will the real Princess of Wales please stand up? And I say this with all due respect. Again, I wish you health. And I'm glad you're okay, because this does shift my focus quite a bit, right? You're fine. I don't have to spend any more of my time on you after this video. But I'm not, with all due respect, buying this whole story. Something is off with how the communications team, which I think is a bunch of professionals at this kind of stuff, handled this, and the corresponding behavior of all the players in this deception. This was a deception. And so then you have all these different photos that, the photos were the topper of it. It was hysterical. And I firmly believe that they had a good time doing this, laughing at the public. They were making a fool of the public. All those different photos, Kate with her mother in the car, a completely different Kate to this one. Kate with the Mother's Day photo, not even a real photo, a total amalgamation that Kate admits she did. So she participated in the deception. The video at the farm, they knew the person was wearing a wig. As I said, I don't see how that could have been Kate, but they say it's Kate. It's Kate. I drank the Kool-Aid. As I said, I drank the Kool-Aid, right? This is Kate. So this is a totally 3 different photos, completely different to this one. And if, as the New York Post said, and all these other people, that she's working behind the scenes, right? It's in juxtaposition to this very frail, pale, weak-looking Kate, who's telling us that she had preventative chemotherapy, which is not even a thing in medicine, right? And who wants us to believe that, whatever she wants us to believe. Look, at this point, here's my position on this. My position is the following. I'm glad that Kate is okay. I wish her the best. And that's it, right? That's it. I don't want to spend any more of my time on Kate and Kensington Palace and their nonsense. Yes, I will cover what I choose to cover, but This was a stunt. This was a stunt. It is my view. This was a PR stunt from start to finish, and it makes me feel sick. That's all I'm going to say. But I'm glad she's alive. I'm really, really glad she's alive and that she's okay.
Why this time, it's more personal than ever.
When you hear that, what does that do for you?
It stirs the emotions.
Yeah.
You know, it's it's not lost on me.
And what he finds most rewarding about it all. The conversation you'll only see here. Welcome to Prince Harry's mission. Life, family, and Invictus Games.